These and updates on one that I previously reported on, where two men were actually jailed for over 20 years for being part of a gang who netted around £330,000 during a string of hold-ups across the city. So in this story, another member of that gang has been jailed. So this robber threatened staff and security guards with an axe during a terrifying £20,000 raid on a one-stop store in Handsworth. Tyrese Clark Jones was said to be linked to that same gang who had netted over £300,000 during a string of hold-ups across the city. Police later recovered a bragging photo of another gang member with a significant amount of cash and a note attached stating, "Things getting done." Clark Jones of Quinton pleaded guilty to the single one-stop robbery when he appeared at Birmingham Crown Court, and he was jailed for 8 years and 9 months. So 4 men, including Clark Jones, had targeted G4S security guards as they were delivering £60,000 to the shop in Vicarage Road in Handsworth. They stole £20,000 in the raid just before lunchtime on July the 18th, 2019, with one of the robbers also wielding a hammer. Paul Spratt, prosecuting at Birmingham Crown Court, said of Clark Jones, the defendant had a fairly significant face mask and was in possession of a fearsome-looking weapon which appeared to have a very sharp blade and a hammer at the other end, and he was threatening members of staff. There were members of the public present during the raid, including a deputy head teacher who had just come into the store to make an ordinary lunchtime purchase. Mr. Spratt said the gang had met at an address in Albert Road in Handsworth in the morning, where they later returned after the robbery in a Volkswagen Golf, and Clark Jones changed his appearance before then, leaving in a taxi. So Mr. Spratt said it was a professionally planned commercial robbery. Clark Jones was captured on CCTV and police were able to identify him because of a distinctive tattoo on his arm. So as I reported back in October last year, Giovanni Garrick, who's 23 of Edgbaston, and Keenan Anderson, who's of Handsworth, were sentenced after both admitting conspiracy to rob, and I believe the total sentence that they got was over 20 years. So Garrick was jailed for 12 years and 11 months, and Anderson, who had also admitted possessing a stun gun and cannabis, was sentenced to 10 years and 9 months. The gang carried out the raids on 11 different targets over a 4-month period between April and July last year. So in passing sentence on Clark Jones, Judge Roderick Henderson said the offence had been desperately serious, but he had taken into account he was only being sentenced for one robbery. And his defence solicitor, Gary Cook, said there was a lack of sophistication and that Clark Jones had failed to hide a distinctive feature which linked him to the robbery. He said no actual violence was used and no one was injured. In London, a woman is due to appear in court today, charged with the murder of a well-mannered and kind teenager stabbed to death in southeast London. Levi Ernest Morrison, who's 17 years old, was found collapsed on the ground with a stab wound in Sydenham at around 7:20 p.m. on Saturday. Police paramedics and London's air ambulance were called to the scene at the junction of Hazel Grove and Sydenham Road. However, Levi was pronounced dead shortly after 8 p.m. Nicola Layton, who's 36 of Sydenham, is due to appear before Bromley Magistrates Court today, accused of his murder. And Levi's family are being supported by specialist officers, but the family actually hit out at a video posted online, purportedly showing him dying in the street. His mother fears her autistic son was killed in a case of mistaken identity. She said yesterday he was waiting for his friends and he didn't realise what his friends were doing. He was a beautiful boy with a beautiful heart. So Levi is the 10th teenager to be fatally stabbed in London this year. Already 2/3 of the 15 killed throughout 2020. And the Met has now launched 33 homicide investigations in 2021, despite the lockdown, which is one less by April the 14th last year.